I'm Tim Ventura, and in this presentation, Riccardo Storti will review specific assertions made by Bob Lazar regarding electromagnetic propulsion he claims to have observed at S4 in the Area 51 complex, which will be tested against Storti's electrogravimagnetic model of physics. Storti will discuss Lazar's claims related to pulsed gravity wave amplifiers operated in the microwave frequency range, as well as fuel for an antimatter power supply requiring a specific manufacturing process.
All right. So what I'm going to do here is scrutinise three very specific scientific claims that Bob Lazar has actually made. I'm not going to deal with any theoretical descriptions of how this stuff's supposed to work or anything like that at all. I'm focusing specifically on the scientific claims that he's made. I'm not going to talk about his story. I'm certainly aware of opponents like Stanton Friedman, who I'd actually had some conversations with prior to his passing. So I'm not going to get into that. I'm focusing purely on the scientific claims that he's made. Now, he's made three scientific claims that I'm aware of. You could probably break at least one of these down into a couple more, but the three that I've listed here is the gravity A wave pulsed at a frequency of 7.46 hertz. That's the first claim. Second claim was that the apparatus in the spacecraft, in the sports model as he described it, operated in the microwave frequency range. And the third claim is that the antimatter power supply required a very specific manufacturing process. What I've got listed there are a couple of recommended minimum viewing articles. I would suggest to people that if you haven't actually seen it, try and have a look at those two there. So the first one is a movie or a film that was put together by Gene Huff and Bob Lazar in 1991. So a couple of years after after everything became public in 1989. And that was that's really a pretty good one. I liked it. It's converted from videotape, so the actual size of the viewing window on screen is pretty small, but it's worth enduring it. The second one was done by Jeremy Kenyon Lockyer Corbell, who and you're probably aware of this video, and I've actually included in there down the bottom a couple of specific time indexes that you can refer to. Once again, I think that's good viewing, and in particular, the second video there, the most recent one, shot in 2018, deals with some information that wasn't revealed in 1989 in terms of how a cone of moscovium or element 115 is actually sliced up. So I'd suggest people have a look at those. I'll move on to the next slide. So there's some graphics from the Bob Lazar webpage of how the apparatus actually worked, and you'll see up here there's a gravity amplifier that housed the element 115 or moscovium. And again, there are pictures available of how that was actually put together. Ken Wright has probably the best visual description that I've seen so far. So you can visit a page by a guy called Ken Wright. He met with Bob Lazar in 2000, I think it was, and must have spent quite some time with him. And sort of put together the page that he's got now and told some of the more technical aspects of the Bob Lazar story. And look, I also make no claim whether Bob Lazar really worked at S4, as we've talked about. It's not Area 51, S4. Look, I don't go into that. As far as I'm concerned, the only real proof that exists, it's not even physical proof, the only real proof that exists is the proof that you can verify for yourself. So if you see someone on TV or YouTube that's got something flying around or whatever, you can't trust that. You can't believe that. It could all be doctored, could all be fake. So the only real proof is the proof that you can verify for yourself. It's not some government document that Stanton Friedman, for example, would rely on so heavily. The very first thing that Stanton Friedman, well, one of the very first things that Stanton Friedman said to me when I had contact with him was, do I have documented proof? And my reply to Stanton was, look, the only real proof is the stuff that you can actually prove for yourself. So that's really important in the presentation that you're going to see, or that you're seeing now, because it's all about proving stuff for yourself. So again, with claim 1, 2, and 3, the next obvious question is why, for example, is gravity A wave pulsed at frequency of 7.46 hertz? Why are the gravity amplifiers working in the microwave frequency range as so claimed? And why is the antimatter power supply, why does it require a specific manufacturing process? And that's what we're gonna deal with. On to the next slide. Okay, so here I've got a diagram of the physics architecture behind the answers that you'll see coming up. At the bottom here, I've got a pyramid. Bottom layer is general relativity. The next layer is polarizable vacuum, or the PV model of gravity by Puthoff. On top of that, we've got 0-point field model. Example, the Casimir effect. Along the side here, you've got it's a method. It's not a theory. It's a method called electrogravity magnetic. So now that's something that myself and Todd have developed over many years. That leads to up here we've got particle physics. There's a whole bunch of particle physics stuff that Todd and I have derived, some of which, actually much of which has been experimentally verified or experimentally implied. For example, we have exact solutions for the radius of the proton, the neutron, etc. That's all been published, and you can look it up. Exact solutions for those, which have been experimentally verified to many significant figures. On the side here is where claim 1 begins, but I'll come back to that in a moment. Just moving on. Particle 2. You can see that claim 2 comes from the particle physics work that we've done, and claim 3 flows onto that. Over here, a critical component of that is the Moscovium. Here, particle physics leads on to cosmology again. In the cosmology space, everything that I've done in that space, Todd hasn't had a great deal to do with that, is experimentally verified. So throughout all of the work that myself and Todd have done, almost everything leads to an experimentally verified result. So we don't just whack up equations and say that's it, that's the solution. No. We actually take it to the next step, produce the numbers, and actually check those numbers against what's actually seen in the real world. Then from cosmology, it eventually passes through cosmological inflation and ends up in basically Todd Desiato's warp drive concepts. And the reason I've listed that here, and Todd can speak to this at much greater length later on, but the reason I've put that in here is because the work that I've done, my cosmology work, and again, that's all available online, is that I demonstrate that within the first 10 to the minus 23 seconds of the universe, the velocity of light during that inflationary period actually expanded to about 10 to 38 orders of magnitude above above the value of C. Again, that's all documented. You can have a look at that, but I just wanted to move through that. Going on to the next slide. Okay, claim 1. Now, the gravity A wave pulsed at a frequency of 7.46 hertz. Why? Okay, now, when you actually, okay, I'll just come back to this slide. Here you'll see to the side here, I've got claim 1 and I've got Fourier quantization. So what I've been able to do, what Todd and I have been able to do is demonstrate just using straightforward mathematics, no experimental, no physical theories are required, nothing at all. You can actually decompose the number 1 into a quantized Fourier spectrum. Now, when you do, what you end up with is that greater than 99.9% of G is cancelled in the first 415 harmonics. So that leads to the result of 7.43 hertz. Now, you need to appreciate that Bob Lazar stated that 7.46 hertz specification back in 1989, and 7.46 is not a number, at least in my view, that you can pull it just pull out of the air. There's got to be some logic behind that. Well, the logic is that if you do a Fourier analysis of gravitational acceleration, as has been done, as we've done, what you end up with is an answer of 7.43 hertz as the pulse frequency. Now, that to me seems just a remarkable coincidence, and I can't see that it is actually a coincidence, because you can verify that for yourself. If you don't know how Fourier series works, well, you can look it up on the net. You can even find, excuse me, you can even find online calculators that'll do all that for you. So that to me, as soon as I saw that, I was very impressed. Moving on. So now, Bob Lazar talks about the gravity A wave and the gravity B wave. And the gravity A wave emanates from the Moscovium, and the gravity B wave, as he calls it, these are his words, not mine. I didn't conceive them. The gravity B wave emanates from the Earth. Now, when we decompose the gravity B wave, so gravitational acceleration at the surface of the Earth, into a Fourier spectrum, that's what you get, 7.433 hertz. It also relates to an amplification factor there, and a power amplification factor. The definitions are down here. The amplification factors, just how much you need to increase the amplitude of the gravity A wave, and the power amplification factor deals with the overall power of what's in the resonator. Now, the results that you see there, they're just obviously copy and pasted results from the mathematical model, which Tim has probably, I think, already posted the link on there for you. So you can see how that all works out. One thing I just noticed down now, and I'll just point that out, is down the bottom here it says at the surface of the Earth, the actual harmonic limit is n equals blah 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 1028. That should read 10 to the power of 28. I don't know what's gone wrong there. I'll have to correct it. But back to, so you can see here, using the same technique, you can actually calculate what the pulse frequency will be in different gravitational environments. So you'll see the moon here, the surface of the Earth at 7.43, Jupiter, that's at the cloud surface, the sun, and a supermassive black hole if you're 1/4 of a millimetre away from the event horizon before the event horizon. Now, just while I'm on this page, I just want to speak to a point that came up earlier about resonance 7.46 and resonance with the Earth. Yeah, look, I actually did investigate that in putting together this presentation. That's not that correlation with C and 2 pi, that's just coincidental, because when you apply the same apply that same 2 pi constraint to these other gravitational environments, you don't get C. So you don't get what was talked about before. So at least in my view, that correlation to 2 pi and that apparent resonance is purely coincidental. So I'll move on to the next slide now. All right. So pardon me. So what's significant about this value, this harmonic of 415? And again, I say you can actually verify all of this for yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. The mathematics is straightforward. It's like first year university stuff. But anyway, I've done the hard yards for you, and these are the results. So the reason it's significant is because if you look at I've called it anti-gravity here, but it's not. It's actually percentage similarity of the gravitational acceleration of the environment that you're working in, and this is the same. These are the same for any gravitational environment. Again, it's just a Fourier spectrum. If you see here the difference between when n equals 415, so the 415th harmonic to the 1015th harmonic, you'll see that the improvement is it's trivial. It's 0.043% in this case, and this is an approximation, by the way. So it's not an exact solution. That's a numerical approximation. So yeah, and to get that, you would require 35 or almost 36 times the power amplification factor. So to go from 99 so to go from just over greater than 99.9% gravitational acceleration reduction to 100%, it's not worth it. So that n equals 15, that 415th harmonic, is really denotes a point of diminishing returns. So it's really a tipping point. So it seems a remarkable coincidence to me that n equals 415 correlates to a pulse frequency of 7.43 hertz. To me, look, quite frankly, I think you've got a higher chance of winning the lottery than fluking that number of 7.46, to use Bob's figures. And you also want to consider that the highest number, so the harmonic limit in this spectrum, is 10 to the 28. So there's a huge number of modes in this spectrum, and you only need the sum of the first 415 in order to reproduce gravitational acceleration by greater than 99.9%. So that, to me at least, is a very powerful statement towards the credibility of that first scientific claim that Bob Lazar has made. Okay, now moving on to claim 2, the gravity A wave amplifiers operate in the microwave frequency range. Now, using that same Fourier technique and combined with some of the stuff that Todd and I have done, what that actually works out to be, so the moscovium atom produces a Fourier spectrum with its fundamental frequency at 11.44 gigahertz, and that means that moscovium wave, that gravity wave, let's say, extends 26.2 millimeters outside the nucleus, so basically an inch beyond the nucleus. And what's important to note is that much greater than 99.99% of all the harmonic modes generated by this moscovium atom actually don't project beyond the nucleus. So it's only a very small fraction of the lower harmonics that actually extends beyond the nucleus. Now, this also supports a claim that Lazar made of exactly that. He said that whatever gravity A wave was coming from the moscovium they actually believe was extending beyond the nucleus of the atom. He and this Ken Wright fellow believe it's the strong nuclear force. So there's something special about that atom. It's stable isotope that projects the nuclear force beyond the limits of the actual nucleus. Now, I'm not going to speak to that point. I don't know whether it's the strong nuclear force or fairies at the bottom of the garden that's actually doing it, but what I'm presenting is the mathematical evidence to support that claim. And that's exactly what we get. We get 11.44 gigahertz. It's right in the microwave frequency range. We get that frequency acting, extending its influence, an inch beyond the nucleus. So again, that to me is, look, it could be coincidence, but to me, it's a remarkable coincidence at the very least. Claim 3. Now, claim 3, some of this actually appeared for the first time in 2018. So what Bob Lazar did say in 1989, which has not changed, was this wedge element here, the cone, etc. That has not changed, especially this wedge element. What has changed in the 2018 video, Bob mentioned that the cone had to be sliced up into these dashed lines that you can see, and he, by his own confession, said there was no rhyme and reason for it. He couldn't understand why it was the case or anything like that. So that intrigued me, and I investigated, and this is what I came up with. So in 2000, when Ken Wright put together his site, and I'd encourage everybody to go have a look at that. This diagram on the bottom right hand side is actually a direct image from the Ken Wright's site. They've got 12 discs here assembled into a cylinder. That cylinder is then machined into a right circular cone, and then from that cone, slices are taken and wedges are formed, and that's step 4 here, and that's the central wedge there. Now, what I've been able to determine is that on the right hand side here, he had 12 discs, and Ken Wright, neither Ken Wright nor Bob Lazar say or even mention that there are 12 discs at the most. Bob Lazar says in 2018 there were many discs. So that number 12 from the Ken Wright site is very, it's dubious. It can't be trusted. It's there for illustrational purposes only. Well, what I actually did was using I showed you before, using the fundamental wavelength here. When you take a quarter of that, you end up with 6.55 millimeters. So that means a quarter wavelength. So it occurred to me that for these discs to transport them, etc., a quarter wavelength would be the optimal size, because at a quarter wavelength, the effect on the face of the disk is effectively switched off, or at the very least minimized. So I ran the numbers again. This is all available with the link that Tim should have given you. If not, you can reach out to me. I've calculated that there are in fact 16 disks. And again, using that quarter wavelength, I was able to actually calculate what all these slices were, the number of slices, the angles that they had to be, etc., all based around that quarter wavelength idea. Because Bob Lazar says that there was no rhyme or reason as to why it's sliced this way. He couldn't even specify the angles, certainly in the 2018 video. But if you look at it, you see when he draws it, that's exactly what he comes up with. Pretty much is what I've got there. Anyway, I've run all the numbers on that, done all the calculations, and that's what it turns out to be. And it turns out that 2/3 of the actual Moscovian material is milled away from this cylinder. So that right circular cone is it's about 1/3, or exactly 1/3 of everything that's in that cylinder. So that means, I think, basically from 3 cylinders you'll get 5 cones or something like that. Now down here you'll see the primary wedge, number 1, is the thickest. But here, just to help everybody understand how this works, is these dashed lines represent the slices. So, for example, so slice 2, I've got the numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. So slice 2 here would actually mate with slice 2 prime. So you'd slice up the cone into these sections, and you would mate slice 2 with slice 2 prime. You'd bond them together, and that would then become that final wedge would then become a new piece of material to run the antimatter propulsion system. So if you look at the Bob Lazar videos, you'll see pretty much the design that he claims was being used. And he talks about element 115 transmuting to 116 and thermionic conversion, etc. Blah blah blah. So you guys can sort of investigate that for yourself. But if you are looking to get specific and very precise dimensions, etc., then again I refer you to the work that I've done, and the link that Tim's sent through. And one thing I should also point out is that the design, these wedges really try and, if possible, look for single atoms of moscovium to amplify the signal. So where possible, you want to end up with these fine points, or it might be slightly rounded. There may be a bit of practicality involved, but basically that's it. You're looking for a single atom, some kind of solution for a single atom that gives you the clearest and easiest signal to actually extract and amplify. Okay, moving on. So in summary, what we've shown is this, that Bob Lazar's first claim of 7.46 has been validated, at least to my satisfaction. Likewise with his second claim, Bob does not provide numbers around his second claim. He only states that the apparatus operates in the microwave frequency range, and claim 3 we've also validated in my view, because we've come up with a full and complete description of the manufacturing process and why it needs to be the way it is. Here's the link that Tim should have passed on. There is also, and I should emphasize this, on that page with that link You'll also see a tab, and it's called, I don't know, I can't remember the name of the, it's called the link tab. Click on that. There's a spreadsheet calculator that you can actually download. So it does a whole lot of stuff. It also calculates a whole lot of, I think, cosmology stuff from memory as well. I included that there. The spreadsheet is the tabs are protected, but the spreadsheet is not locked. So you can unprotect those tabs and do whatever you like to any of the cells, look at the formulas, play around, do whatever you like. But I just want to point that out. So when you open it up, it'll show that each sheet is protected. But you can simply unprotect those and do whatever you like to it. Finally, information regarding the EGM methodology used to justify the Lazar's claims. Look, if you're all a bit, skeptical about theories and new people and different ideas, etc., look. As I mentioned before, Todd and I found exact solutions for the mass and size of fundamental particles. Many have either been experimentally verified or implied by the standard model of particle physics. I've also made new particle predictions for the Casimir effect, exact solutions for the cosmological and astronomical Hubble constants, and we can explain the tension between those, all from the one equation. Point 3 there, a complete history of the cosmos, including resolution of the Hubble tension dilemma. I just mentioned that. Now, I expect that the James Webb Telescope is going to validate our most recent cosmological prediction, and that's that the universe is in fact 14.57 gigayears of age, not 13.8. So it's the Hubble age, right? And you can read about that if you're interested in that kind of thing in Hindawi there. There's a paper that's published on that. So the point of this last slide is that is to sort of trying to communicate to people. Look, if you have doubts about the numbers that we've come up with regards to Bob Lazar, what I'm communicating is the mathematical model, the method behind those Lazar numbers is the same method that's also behind this particle physics and cosmology stuff that we've done, much of which has been actually experimentally verified. So that should give you a little bit of confidence. So look, that's essentially it. I'm not sure if I've raced through that or had enough time, but yeah, look, happy to take questions.